Hey everyone, welcome back. If this is your first time, thanks for joining. I'm doing a little quick update of what's happening in the garden. I am starting to propagate strawberries for family members I'm going to be giving them to. So in different areas where I have my strawberries, I have them rooting into little cups. I'm also starting to try to trim some of the runners back as well. This strawberry patch started with probably 40 strawberries, and I have so many in here now. At the beginning of the season, you could see a bunch of bare spots, and now there's only one spot where the strawberries look like they haven't come to, and I don't want this to get overgrown, so I'm trying to control the strawberry plants by pulling all the runners that I see. But the strawberries are doing great. I've already got a couple of harvests, and where I'm not able to really put a cup, I'm just taking some garden stakes and pushing the runners down into the soil to let them root naturally, and then I'm going to take them out once I can tell that they have safely rooted. The tomatoes that I started at the end of April are doing really well, and it's now time to start trimming the bottom leaves. I really don't like any of the branches and stems to touch the soil. This is just for disease and pest issues. So I'm going in and taking the lower branches off a lot slower than I normally do. Usually I just cut a whole bunch off at a time, and I don't think the tomatoes like that. But I'm trying to go slow and be patient. This season is all about patience in the garden. One of the hardest things that I have to do is thinning out my plants. But as I mentioned in the previous video, I put 2 squash or 2 melons in the same planting spot, and they will not do well that way. Cucumbers, sure, but your larger gourds, not really. So I went in and snipped out all of the plants that I thought were the weaker of the two. Both of them looked really good, and it was hard to cut them apart. And I have 5 of my sweet potato bags planted. Most of the bags have 4 slips in them. A couple of them here have 5. Just trying to see how 5 do in a 20-gallon bag versus 4. But there's 5 of what will be 10 bags already planted. The other slips were not ready to plant just yet. And in this pot, I had originally had my beets. And when I removed the last beet, I saw that there was an abundance of ants. So I treated this with the neem oil drench, the formula I did get from the Rustic Garden, which did eliminate the ants. And I'm now going to be planting in the turmeric. I waited about a week before planting into the soil just to make sure that the oil and everything was absorbed. And as I was digging through, I didn't see any evidence. So I am putting a mixture of fertilizer, some bone meal, and some worm castings into the hole that I'm going to plant them in. And then once I plant this in this pot, in the pot behind me, I'm going to remove the remaining beets and then plant the ginger there. Since both of them enjoy the warm weather, but they don't really like the sun. Last year, I had them in just about full sun. One was planted in between Tabasco plants, and the other one was in between some other hot peppers. They didn't do too great. They didn't do poorly, but they didn't perform well. They looked like they were kind of brown. So I'm going to put a shade cloth on them this year to see if that helps in any way with increasing their production and root growth. I decided to leave behind 2 beets, one golden and one red, just to let them go to seed. I really am trying to work on saving seeds of different varieties, not just my tomatoes and peppers, to try to cut back on how many seeds I have to purchase. So the 2 of them I left right there on the sides just as an experiment. Seems like I'm always experimenting, but just as an experiment, I left those 2. And the same mixture that I used in my turmeric planting holes, I put on top of the soil and mixed in for the ginger as well before I covered them up with the shade cloth. I was really hoping that I would have more ginger to plant, as I was saving the wheelbarrow as well to plant the ginger into, but I only had about 5 pieces, so for now I put them all over here. I can transplant them later on if I choose to, but I will only have one spot for ginger this season, which is a little disappointing. And over here at the peach tree, I don't have any peaches. When the frost came this spring for the 3 different times, it killed off any blooms that I had. And I know it's not recommended to come in and trim your peach tree in the summer, but since I didn't have any fruit, I figured what could it hurt? And this way I can see with all the leaves there where I have problem spots and need to clear it out to give it better airflow. And lastly on this update are the lilies. The lilies are tall. If I were to stand next to this, they would be almost my shoulder height. It's been 3 years since I've had lilies, and every year they get taller and taller, and I don't have any clue what to do to control the growth, what if I'm doing something wrong. But these are just monster-sized lilies, and I hope they bloom soon. That concludes the update for today. Thanks for sticking to the end. Please like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.